how is everyone's week? I know we had some, I know we have a couple of dogs who are very, very interested in food. Um, and the speed at which they want to achieve those rewards is a challenge for us, and that's okay. We did a live training once, like a whole Facebook Live, and I did it with my own dog, and she was so amped in the beginning. She was just like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing?" And I just had to say, "Okay, so sometimes this happens, and what we have to do is we have to kind of wait it out, and we also need to, like, kind of show them, hey, I know you're excited. It's all good. It's all good. But what I'm looking for right now and what I'm going to respond to is calm behavior." And you kind of like slow everything down. And then you just choose what you reward. There's a fantastic YouTube channel by Emily. Her last name starts with an L and I can't think of it, but her YouTube channel is Kiko Pup, Kikopup. And she has some fantastic exercises that I love that are all about rewarding calm. So if your dog is kind of in that like pocket of woo, like, you know, the kid in the classroom who just needs all the like attention and like that. I think that would be helpful for you, okay, to go and look at some of her videos on just capturing calm. Elizabeth, that's great to hear that that was helpful, what I said before about, just not, we don't have to worry about other people's judgments when we're out with our dog. We just don't have to worry about it. It's their stuff. And we don't need to take it on. And yeah, I do get with pit bulls too. We want our dogs to represent the breed, and especially dog fighting survivors. We want them to like represent their population. That's not fair. Okay. That's BS. They're dogs. We should not saddle them with that. And I'm walking a fine line as I'm saying that, because I actually do judge dogs, and like sometimes it's, I'm looking at them and their lives are depending on these judgments. And, it's like we're looking at what dogs can succeed in our world and what dogs are just going to be miserable or dangerous. So I do understand absolutely when you have pit bulls that you want them to live up to that expectation. And we feel responsible for, other dogs. And I used to say to other dogs, hey, like, you're going out in the world now, and there's a bunch of dogs that are still on their chains and they're counting on you to not screw it up. And now I'm like, I'm just going to say that to myself. I'm not going to put it out there, because even though the dogs can't understand me, I feel like that's an unfair burden to put on a dog. But that is the reality of it. Okay. Like when we look at how the public is and how, people will legislate against pit bulls and stuff. So totally get that. So aside from the overall thread that I've heard from folks that their dogs are just really excited about training, is there anything else that has been challenging for this past week?
Don't worry about what other people think when they look at you when you're out with your dogs.
I heard that.
Okay.
Listen.
Dana, I heard you.
We had kind of a question. So we're finding that, the training goes really, really well up to a point. If there's nothing else going on and everything's quiet, Zori's solid. She's got a great touch, does all these things. A decent amount of, external activity maybe, but like the second something has fully captured her attention, I don't think anything less than like a dead squirrel would get her attention back to us. Like when there's another interesting dog on a walk, like I have not found a high enough value treat to redirect her attention to me. Like the best we can do is get as far away from that as we can safely and wait for it to pass and then like start over.
Yeah. Is she able to take treats during that time?
No, she is not doing
Okay, she can't take treats. Okay.
if once something is locked in her sight, until she physically cannot see it anymore, nothing else is happening.
Yeah. So here's what I would say about that is that the reason that we're doing the basics before Rad Dogs is because all of these pieces, putting them together and then making one moving machine doesn't happen overnight. So if she's not there yet in the reactivity, in dealing with her reactivity, that's actually fine. I'm not expecting her to be. I think that as you go through the next couple of months with training, I think you will see an improvement. So we took our dogs up to Lake Erie just for one night. And, of course, it's Father's Day, so there's a lot of people out. And BG wasn't great. Like she had we were on a trail down by the water, and there were a lot of bicycles and there were people with a dog, and there was one dog that just set her off, and she did the Casey will know, but it's kind of like a dinosaur sound. It's like a like it's a whole lot. Okay. And Brent was handling her, and he did the right thing. He just moved her, away from the dog, which was kind of the direction that she was happy to get away from the dog. But she's been out of practice. We haven't done a getaway in a while, so that's okay. But I do think that these things, we have to build, again, this is complex stuff. This is, we're talking about fear, anxiety, stress, motivation. Dogs, a lot of these dogs who have had some history that has contributed to kind of solidifying unwanted behaviors. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about that yet. As far as food treats, I think that's actually it's a really good thing for us to remember that if our dogs can't take a treat and they normally can, that means that that system, right, has gone offline. Okay. So then we know, right, that the parasympathetic nerve system, okay, like the brain is doing a thing to keep the machine alive. It can only do that one thing because the stress has gotten so much that we've gone into like what I refer to as the F bucket, okay, which is like fight, flight, freeze, F around. Fawn is actually one too. Animals will if they're very, very stressed, they will present as very, very friendly. That's one of the issues with when you first meet a dog. Like you don't know that dog, especially if like that dog just got hit by a car and everyone's like, this dog's so nice. I'm like, you have no idea what this dog is like. So I'm sorry, I just got off track. Remind me where I was going with that.
I think you were telling me not to panic, that I can't always regain Zori's attention right away.
Right.
And sometimes
Oh, yes. So the eating specifically. Okay. So once that system has been taken online because we're in that, fight or flight mode, that's good information for us. That means that she probably needs a lot more distance. And I understand when we're walking our dogs, we can't control the public. So what happens is we get into situations where we're like too close for comfort. So you're doing the right thing by getting her out, but I would just start paying attention to at what distance can she eat? Like at what distance, and that's physical distance and distance time from the onset. So now that you know, right, that is like switching something on in their brain, right? It changes doesn't it change how you feel about it a little bit? to know that it's something that they can't even control. Like they would eat if they could. They would respond if they could. They would do the things if they could. So yeah, I would say really pay attention to, yeah, totally overwhelmed. Really pay attention to when they can and can't eat, especially like now that we have a little bit of more information probably about what treats they prefer. Like the dogs that I work with, like I always have a list of like their top 5 everything, like toys, treats, walks, like what motivates you? Because every dog is different. So when our motivators are not working, it is often, especially with reactivity, that we're just too close to the trigger. So we will get there in rat dogs. But any other, before we get into like jumping into what we're doing this coming week, Cyan is still confusing touch for giving her paw. I tried your suggestion of keeping the treat behind me, but she kept giving her paw. That's okay. So if a dog really, really has a history of using their paw, it's fine. How badly do we need her to learn hand targeting? She could totally live without it. I would say, a couple things that you could try are do it when she's not super hungry and do it for she's 7. Okay. So she's been doing it for a long time. And it's not that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. We just have to do a little bit more work to get those neurons to fire. Right. It's like people as we get older and as we like become these like habitual little friggin' trolls. And then we have new information and we're like, ow, it hurts. I don't want to do it. And it literally is painful. We don't want to change. We don't want to do it. So you could look at when we're thinking about her excitement level and her it is very likely that she's going to go back to like the old behavior, right? So a couple of things. We could try it in a different space so that it feels fresh. You know how when you walk into a room and you go, oh, why did I walk into this room? That's an actual thing, threshold amnesia, right? Because our brains reset when we go into a new environment. So sometimes walking into another room, using like a really, really low value treat so that they're like not super excited. They're not just going to do it to get the thing. They're like, oh, it's a Cheerio. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, sure. I mean, like I could do it. And then hold your hand. What you're going to do is you are going to change the environment. It's like bumpers. When we send kids bowling, right? We put like these crazy bumpers in so they can't lose. So you're going to put your hand like right next to her nose. You're going to make it like she can't fail. And just try and get like 1 or 2. Just try and get 1 or 2 hand targeting. And then if you want to like have her give you paw, you could reinforce for that. Make sure that the cues look different so that she knows, okay, yeah, maybe I still can get reinforced for doing the paw because I love doing the paw. That's great. But I can also do this thing, which is the nose boot. So yeah, and we're still getting lots of licking. It's better when they're not hungry and my hands are clean. But okay, so 6 out of 10, Tara and Brian, 6 out of 10 is better than what we were getting before, right? So we are moving in the right direction. I love it. All right, Christine, I'm glad that that was helpful. So we are going to be working on sit, down, and stay. How many of your dogs have no experience with sit or down? Okay, good. I was like, please, I don't want to see any, I don't want to see anybody type in my dog's never done a sit. Okay. So this is not new. And this is really good because since your dogs have some framework of it, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be kind of refining your timing, your luring, your capturing, your marking, your rewarding. Okay. Oh, I wanted to ask, I'm sorry. Is anyone's dog taking treats with a hard mouth? Okay, I'm seeing, all right. So here's a trick. Number one, you can put it in between your fingers and not let it go until you just feel lips. You can also just deliver that treat on the floor. Just drop it instead of handing it to them. However, I am a little bit hesitant to train out that mouth pressure because, again, it gives me a ton of information. My dog friend Hugo, who has a lot of stranger danger, I can tell when I'm working him that it's getting to the point where we're going to need to back off or take a break or stop because, okay, by hard mouth, I mean, they're taking a treat like they're going to chomp your fingers off. Yeah. And a soft mouth is like a gummy, and we really want, so bite inhibition is, it's learned when dogs are young. A lot of dogs are separated from their litters too early so that they actually don't have the opportunity to learn it at the appropriate time. So bite inhibition is, if we could teach all of our dogs to have great bite inhibition, that would be amazing because you know what we would get? We would get a free bite. If they ever bit, there would be a free, yeah, so I have I question, do you really want to train them to always take a treat with a soft mouth, or do you want to just kind of let them tell you how they're feeling? If it's painful, then we really want to slow it down, and you can just say, okay, yeah, okay, but slow down, easy, chill, you're good. And I have to be careful I have stuff on cue with different dogs. I actually have with Hugo because he will see light in the car and start snapping at the ceiling. I have him trained that we do this thing looks like this, chill. And he will lay down and put his chin on the armrest in between. And I had to train that because that's kind of a dangerous behavior when you're driving, right? All right, so that mouth pressure, we're going to just pay attention to it. If when you're teaching sit and down and stay, you're finding that you don't want to add one more layer to things, right? You can just drop it on the floor, and it's fine for them to get that treat from the floor. And where you deliver it, you could actually use that as like a free reset to get them from a sit into, you wouldn't have to use find it. You could just say good and then toss it like a couple feet over there, and then you could cue another sit. The other thing is with sit and down, a lot of dogs have a hard time going from a down into a sit, right? They've never done that. Like, how many of you guys have taught that to your dogs? Yeah, because you didn't have a reason to do it before, right? Now you have a reason. It's called puppy push-ups, okay? And it exercises the brain. And it's great for dogs who need a little bit of mind-body reconnection. One of the things that we know about institutionalization is that it can cause a disconnect between the body and the mind. My dog had a back surgery and had to be recovered in a crate so small that she couldn't get up or turn around. So she was very wobbly and clumsy. So these puppy push-ups are a really nice way for your dog to experience being in their body and doing a little bit of physical activity that has, a little bit of structure to it. So We're going to be using luring, right? We lure to sit and then we lure to down, and then same thing from the down, we're going to lure back into the sit. So let me toss up a couple of worksheets. Did anyone video this week? All right. I love it. Okay, cool. I've been giving you guys, like, I've been trying to pepper in, like, do this because it's going to be part of next week. And you guys are crushing it. So, and I feel like the more that we do things, right, the better that we feel about them. So introducing these things, I'm glad that you guys are taking advantage of that. Does anyone want to share anything that they learned from their videos? I will tell you one thing that I have learned from watching myself.
I don't know. I mean, I have comments about her behavior, but
Okay.
that she knows the hand that is handing her the high value treats, and she focuses on that hand and ignores the touching hand.
Okay.
So you have to move away or take a little longer pause for her to switch her attention. I mean, what else was she doing? Yeah,
That's about it.
but yeah, but other than that, she did well, I think.
So Raphael, one of the things that we are going to do is, like, right now we have the food out in front when we're working. We're going to start putting that food behind us so that we can, right. Casey's saying I hide my hand with the treats. A lot of times what we'll do is, when we start training, we want them to know that the food is coming. As this starts to get more reliable, we can put our treats in a treat pouch and put them behind our back.
Yeah, that's probably what we need to do. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a little pouch. I could use that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Another question that I have is that we're doing the exercises maybe every other day, and she finishes them like in 2 minutes. And I was wondering, is it counterproductive to do it? Like, I bet she would like to do. She would do it like after 1 hour. She would do it again because that's how much she loves to eat. So, but would that be counterproductive to do it?
So
More
as
than once a
long
day?
as it's low stress, you could do it every day. In the beginning, it is stressful for us and for the dogs. So I would say as we go into week 3, yeah, you could start adding a couple of minutes. As long as we're not getting them to the point like where they can't eat, where they're getting like less than, where they're getting like C's and B's instead of A's. We want them to be getting A's right now. We want this to be like dopamine inducing to them. We want to make it a little bit addictive. And if it's what you said is really important. You are leaving the party when she's still having a good time. So it's actually building drive for that training, right? Keeping it shorter. So there is kind of a reason behind why we've kept these small in the beginning. And it is because we want the dogs to like want a little bit more. So don't let it get to the point where she's tiring out, but yeah, add a little time. It sounds like she's having a great experience. So why not?
She gets very, very excited.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. If someone if my husband every morning was like, hey, look, I have some of your favorite thing here. Want to play a game for it? I'd be like, yeah, yes. Donuts. Cool. All right. Any other questions or comments about the videos? I learned early on from watching myself that I had a really bad habit of getting dogs amped. When I was a young trainer, like that was my Achilles heel. Was I would get so excited that I would get the dog excited. And then, you know, these dogs who are, you know, maybe living in a shelter environment and just have a lot of pent up energy, then they're like bouncing off you and losing their minds. So I had to learn how to kind of tune it down just a little bit. It's funny because I have a video now of a protocol that I'm working on, and I actually do a little like a little celebration. And it's like, there I go again. Old habits are hard to break. All right, so I am going to give you guys the 2 files for next week. And I apologize for the typos on last week's PDFs. This is why I do things, you know, I don't upload all of the pieces right at the very beginning. This gives me like a chance to do a last edit. Yeah, there was just, I had left week 1 where it should have said week 2, but I'm sure you guys figured it out. All right, so week 3's lesson. Can everyone see this? You guys seeing it in the chat? Okay. All right, so sit down and stay. Time for the triple threat. Yes, we are teaching 3 new behaviors this week. To be fair, most of your dogs likely have some experience or some exposure to the sit cue. These are wonderful, useful foundation behaviors that you can use when you want your dog to stop moving or jumping, or when you simply need them to be still for a moment. So we need high value treats, and we need a comfortable substrate. What I recommend is go to Five Below and grab yourself a couple of yoga mats, cut them in half, and they make a perfect like working station. One of the things that can happen when the dogs are training, oh, Casey, you can share your thing about this. So one of the things that can happen when training is that an animal can lose their footing, and it really like breaks their confidence, right? Like, have you ever been doing something like you're maybe, I don't know, you're in a dance class and you trip and fall, right? Does that help your confidence? No, it doesn't. So Case, when we were at Kindred Spirits, we were trying to teach the cows to like lift a leg on cue. And then we were doing it with the pigs too. And Casey was working with this pig named Friday, and he's a big Kune pig. And he stepped on this on the railroad tie, and it kind of wobbled. And I was like,
Oh
"Feed him,
yeah,
feed
it
him,
took
feed him."
forever to get him back on track. And
Yeah,
it
but I was
was
like,
you
"Feed
just
him,
had
feed him,
to
feed him."
wait it out and
Yep.
accept that, yeah, oh my gosh, that was startling. And be patient. Be patient and like, oh yeah, he was afraid. Okay. Give it a
Yeah.
second. A little bit of love, a little bit of nice voice, and things work out.
And he got,
Yeah,
and
he got right
did get
back.
right
He
back
got
on it.
right
Yep.
back at it. It just took a couple minutes.
And it's really important when we have those little like snafus that we do everything that we can to change it so that we are ending on a good note, because that's how we're like, how we are exiting the experience is really what we're going to take with us. And I've actually been, so I was a nanny for a million years in Connecticut, and the kids that I nannied for like a decade, Katie was riding and fell off her horse when her parents were out of the country at the Olympics. Okay. And her instructor was like, she has to get back on. And she's looking at me and her little face and the tears, and she's like 7. And I'm like, okay, like, you're the boss. She got back on the horse, did a lap, put her in the car, took her to the emergency room. Kiddo broke her humerus. She broke her elbow. And this little love bug was like making jokes about how it wasn't humorous, and like, oh my gosh. But she's 30 now. Okay. And the last time I saw her, she said, "Thank you so much for making me get back on that horse. Thank you for supporting that," because she still rides. And it's part of, It's part of what she does. It's a huge part of her life. And so it really is important that when we have those experiences where things go sideways for a second, that we write them if we can. We can't always, okay? But write them if you can. So we're going to make sure that our substrate is non-slippy for the dogs, because we want to prevent this slipping around. So teaching the behavior is super simple. The sit is basically the lure is putting the treat to your dog's nose, all right, and putting it back up over their head. If they already know sit, you don't have to lure it. If they can do it on a cue, fine. But if they don't, if your dog responds to sit like half the time, I would say teach it with a lure. Teach it with a lure, mark and reward like it's new, and get that sit really, really nice and polished. There's a difference between a dog who, when you say sit, they're like, what else is going on, man? Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, I can do that. Cool. All right, I'm sitting. What do you want? And a dog where you're like, hey, sit. And they're like, okay, let's go. We want the dog that's like, okay, let's go. When I ask you to sit, that means that like, we're going to start working. We're going to start doing something. Down, the troubleshooting for down is that some dogs, as they are starting to lower their body down, they don't know how to like stretch out their neck. So there's a couple things that we can do. We can put the treat down and then around towards their shoulder, right? So they turn their head, and then sometimes that will make that elbow go down, and then they'll kind of lay on their side. What we usually do with teaching down is we usually shape it. We usually accept approximations that are, these are benchmarks on the way to the ultimate goal. So sure, we will reward them. So I always like to watch the elbows when we're teaching down. And down is really good. Video is really good for down too. If you do video, you can see like what your dog, maybe your dog has a moment where, they kind of like avert their eyes away. Like, what is it about that that's making them uncomfortable? And laying down puts them in a vulnerable position. So I think it's fair for us to say, yes, that may be a little bit challenging for some dogs. All right. Stay, and you're going to see in the video, we are going to make this a no fail zone. So if I say to you, don't do anything, yes, here's a cookie. See what I just did there? I made it completely impossible for you to fail. I said, stay, yes, good job. So in the beginning, we make it so tight that they're not going to pop out of it. There's no time, right? We're going to do that 5 times, and then we're going to go, stay. Yes, treat. Okay. So we're going to add little tiny increments, and we're going to go baby steps. We are going to work more on stay next week. Okay. We're actually going to do spot training where we're going to teach them to go to a mat and stay. I just want you to get your feet wet with stay. I want you to, and the point is not to add distance, duration, distraction, and do all the things, right? There is a whole protocol that you can do that in a month, right? You should be able to have your dog stay on a bed. While someone rings the doorbell, you go answer it, sign for a package, come back and release your dog, right? But that's like a month of working every day, and people don't usually get there in a month. It usually takes a couple of tries, all right? I want you to think of the smallest ways that you can incorporate distance, duration, and distraction. One of the things that I do is I do little, like with my dogs when they're in a stay, I'll do like little cheers, right? Who's a good dog? Who's a good dog? And they just have to stay there and like watch me and wait for the treat, or I release them, right? But that started with like it started with the first note of the song, okay? And then we build the melody. Yeah, and clapping hands is a big, like we do clapping, we do turning around. There's all kinds of things that we do to build up to that ultimate, like, hey, I can put you in a stay and have you really hold it with a lot of things going on in the environment. I want you all to think about when you filled out your form and you said, this is the reason that I am doing this course. These are the behaviors that my dog is doing that I would like them to not do. Could they do that in a downstay? See what we're doing here? I mean, if it's barking, yes, they could probably bark in a downstay. But it's less likely to happen. And it's more likely that we could like get their attention, move them into a better environment and get them in a downstay. So I hope that you guys are seeing that we are building these things. All right. For the journal page for next week, I have put on here, and I want you guys to remember that these are, when you're doing positive reinforcement-based training, there's really not a whole lot that you can do that's going to mess anything up, right? So feel free to experiment. As long as your dog is having a good experience, like your dog is going to tell you if what you're doing is working or not. And I will tell you that it is not always about getting the behavior. There are some times when I've asked my dogs to do things and they have not responded with like, the desired response. And I've gone like, all right, screw it. There are times when I ask my husband for things and he's like, I can't right now. Am I going to go, no, you have to because I said so? No, that's not reasonable. So as we're thinking about, teaching our dogs these things, they are, they used to be called commands. Then we called them cues. I actually call them requests because it's an ask. You're asking your dog to do something. And in positive based training, if they don't do it, nothing happens. We don't punish. We just go, all right, like what else? Can I change the environment to get this behavior? Is there something else that I can do to motivate you towards the behavior? Is there a different behavior, right? If I can't get you to do a down, could I move you over here and ask you for a sit and just accept the sit instead of the down? So think about that. All right, we are going to watch, this video is long, guys. It's like 7 minutes. All right, so as you see though in the journal, it says, we're adding 3 new behaviors. However, you'll be spending the same amount of time working. If you guys feel like you're ready to add a little bit more time to it and it would benefit you and your dogs, then absolutely do that. And I am going to ask, I'm going to do like a prize drawing. Okay. This week, at some point this week, I'm going to say, who wants to drop videos to be entered in the prize drawing? And y'all are going to go, oh yeah, I have videos. And you'll get entered for every video that you post. So if you've been doing videos and you have 4 to enter, then you're 4 times more likely than someone who didn't do the video. Just saying, there could be prizes. Who doesn't want Hello Boy swag? Come on, you guys. All right, so if there are no questions about that, let me grab this video. You okay up there? Okay. And this dog who is the dog from this video, if you guys follow us on Facebook, you will have seen him, or you have seen him on our Facebook. His name is Buzz Right Ear. Because he has one ear that goes up. And his name was already Buzz, and he was a heartworm positive dog that we took. And he did not know these like all of these cues before I met him. We did do some work before this video, but this is actually shot in a hotel right before his transport. So we hadn't really put in like that much work. But I think you guys will see that like this should be fun. Okay. When you guys are working on this sit down stay, and it's actually what we're doing is we're getting a little bit more physical. There's a little bit more physicality involved in this for us. I want you to remember your body language and how imposing we can be on a dog. Like if we're leaning over them when we're trying to train them, especially if your dogs are like a little bit fearful. Buzz is a like A-grade, bomb-proof, loves everyone, everything dog. Not all dogs are as responsive to, to close body contact as Buzz was. But all right, so this video is about 7.5 minutes. We're all going to go off and watch it, and I will see you back here in a few.
I love me some Buzz. He's just so darn cute.
He's so great. He's really, oh, what a love bug. So I went way too far in that video with him. And as you could see, I got too confident. And he broke that stay because he wasn't ready yet. He just had not built up. I mean, honestly, I can't believe how well he did anyway. He's one of those dogs that I look at and I'm like, how did you end up here? What wretched human being had access to a dog like you? And he actually had a rope embedded in his neck.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah, I mean, but I really pushed it. And you know what? I guess here's the thing, right? If the worst thing that can happen is that like you get a free cookie or that like I don't get a perfect report card, then I guess we can push a little bit, right? But I think that it's good to see what happens when you get overconfident. I will also add that my excitement in this video is also a part of the distraction for him, right? You could see that like the tail would really start going when I was like, just like getting really impressed with him. So I don't want you guys to expect that your dogs are going to be able to pull a Buzz right ear and go, oh yeah, yeah. I just act like I've always known this. I want you to like the way that we win is by not getting overconfident early on, right? Because we really want to build them up and we really want to cheerlead them. And that's how we get that good juice going. Any questions about what we are teaching this week? All right. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for you guys. And I want you to think about because I'm going to ask you guys for a favor next week. I want you to think about how this course has benefited you. And what you would say to someone about maybe how your mindset has changed about training your dogs. Because I think one of the things that we really do early on is we make sure that we are looking at the dog not as an animal who's like just being a pain in the butt, but as a sentient being who is struggling to do the things that we want them to do in our world. So I want you guys to think about how you might be able to help us promote this out, because we are going to give people the opportunity to do this 4 weeks self-instructed before we jump into Rad Dogs in August. But I think you guys probably have some really important information, and you guys can, everyone has my email address. I'm the one who emailed you. So if you are more comfortable shooting me an email, but we really love your feedback, and that can be criticisms too. Like we are open to it. This is all about, like I said, us removing barriers. And part of that is you giving us feedback so that we know how to best serve folks who are trying to get a better relationship with their dogs, because that's what it's all about. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And we will see you next time. All right, I will email you in the morning, okay?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Have a good
thank
night.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was fantastic. Yay.